How's it going, people? Finally getting around to making the video for visual settings for Assetto Corsa Competizione. I do apologize. This video has been a long time coming. It's just been a little busy, and I actually moved my PC out into my living room to play a little bit of Half-Life Alyx. But let's make it short and sweet. These are my visual settings. If you go to NVIDIA Control Panel, Global Settings, I have Power Management Mode set to prefer maximum performance. Program Settings, obviously Assetto Corsa Competizione. If you scroll down, Quality, texture filtering quality, I have it set to high performance. Jay's 2 cents, he made a video a little while back, and he was talking about benchmarking and how he changes this setting to high performance. Not just him, but a bunch of other people as well. And they don't notice any visual, it doesn't impact the game visually, but it gives them a slight boost in performance. Once again, doesn't really do a whole bunch. Does it do a whole lot? I'm not really sure, but once again, these are my settings, and this is what I have it set to. Um, NVIDIA driver, this is the latest one. I have this one installed for Half-Life, but I did not play the game using this driver. I played the game using the previous driver, and the last video that I uploaded was in fact using the previous NVIDIA driver, not this one. It shouldn't it shouldn't impact the performance of the game, but once again, this is the driver that I currently have installed, but I did not try the game out using this driver. The videos have been recorded using the previous driver. The visual settings in Steam VR, I can't pull up the settings panel right now because I don't have the headset plugged in. But in Steam VR, I have super sampling set to 100. And I did actually play around with both settings in Assetto Corsa and Steam VR, and I've noticed that you get better performance if you leave the super sampling at 100 in Steam VR and then just ramp up the super sampling in Assetto Corsa. In Assetto Corsa, I usually run super sampling at 135 or 140%. The game is obviously very taxing on the system itself, and it largely depends on what you have the weather set to. I usually play in cloudy or overcast and rain. For some reason, rain has little impact on the performance, while clear setting has a huge impact on performance, and that's most likely due to the shadows, the shadow rendering. Also, dusk and dawn, I, I would I would stay away from as much as possible because the lighting and the filtering has a pretty decent impact on performance as well. With Assetto Corsa, I usually do hot lapping, or if I'm racing, I race with 6 or 7 opponents on track. I strive for that 90 FPS at all times, but and I'm able to hit that 90 FPS when I'm hot lapping and in certain races. But usually when I'm racing, I have it set to 144 Hertz in the headset with smoothing on, which effectively means that the game is being rendered at 72 frames a second. When I'm recording a video, I actually have it set to 120 Hertz in a headset with smoothing on, which means that the game itself is being rendered at 60 frames a second. Um, and that's why the visuals look so smooth on screen. People have asked, why isn't it smooth when I'm running the game? Um, well, if you're running on the index, if you set it to 120 Hertz with smoothing on, once again, the game is rendered at 60 frames a second, and at 60 frames a second syncs with the TV refresh rate of 60 frames, so it makes it look extra smooth. Um, let's take a look at the visual settings in the game. I think these presets over here, the VR presets, actually do a pretty good job. Uh, I actually set mine to, I believe it's medium or high, and then I actually mess around with some of the settings over here. I'm just gonna scroll up and down, have you guys take a look. Obviously, anti-aliasing temporal high is what I currently have it set to. If you set it on epic, it's very taxing on the system, and medium just looks much worse than high. And also for some reason, high and epic, there's no visual difference between the two that I can tell. So set that to high. Make sure you set it to high. Virtual reality, obviously this is I'm recording off my screen and running the game in 2D mode at the moment, so this is set to 100% default. In VR, I either set it to 135 or 140%. If we go down to advanced, that's what I currently have it set to. And then this is also another thing that I changed, tone mapping. I have it set to default. Usually it's set to ACES or ACES. I have it set to default. The image looks much more contrasty and much more vivid, and that's also the reason why I changed the image contrast to 0.45. The default value is 0.50. I have it set to 0.45 to take away some of the contrast, but Assetto Corsa Competizione can look a little bland at times, and I think this just gives it that visual pop. Once again, yeah, these are my settings. Racing, once again, I'm able to race at 90 FPS in certain scenarios, not all the time. But usually if I'm racing at 144 Hertz in the headset with smoothing on, which means that the game is being rendered at 72 frames a second. It definitely gives you that headroom that's needed with this game because it is so heavy. It's very taxing on the system itself. And when I'm recording, I record at 120 Hertz in the headset, 60 FPS native, obviously with smoothing turned on. Not necessarily for the performance headroom, but I do it more for the fact that the rendered images sync with the refresh rate of my TV, and it just looks much smoother than if I were playing it at any other refresh rate. Yep. Well, those are my settings. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll post my system specs in the video description. And once again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Try these settings out. If you have similar specs to mine, let me know how it works out for you. Thanks, guys. Be safe.